Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Here we are. We're live. Hopefully everyone can hear us and everyone can see us. Let me know in the chat if you can. Hope everyone enjoyed me furiously pasting and texting quotes from Monty Python and the Holy Grail during the videos there. Good, you can hear me. Can you hear Suit? Hello, Suit. By the way, Suit and Tie Guy. Over, where's he at? Over.
I don't know.
Like,
I'm not seeing. Am I in your bully box right now? That's what we called it back when I worked in news.
You are, and you look great. Your head is your head is appropriately sized, and it is centered in the screen.
Yeah, and I can even do like the finger right in the fisheye like the rappers do.
Perfect. That's what my viewers are looking for. This is the kind of content they pay for, and I'm glad you're here to help me provide it to them.
People are paying for this?
Well, I suspect via YouTube somehow.
Yeah, I like to consider myself a professional musician, and my merchandise is not T-shirts and CDs. It's modular synthesizers, and they're very expensive.
Well, good. And so everyone watching, as a token of your gratitude for us taking up Suit's time tonight, please go to his website, find a link, and buy something from him. Dang it. Buy something.
stgsoundlabs.com, suitandtieguy.com, and knobcon.com.
Cool.
And you got my name spelled right in the lower third, right? It's with an ampersand.
You know what? I didn't put the lower third text in there yet because this is a professional show and we're doing professional things.
Okay. Well, at least we're not calling it Chiron, because Chiron is a brand name. Lower third graphics are merely lower third graphics. It's only a Chiron if it's made by a Chiron machine.
I see. So you want it's Suit ampersand Tie Guy, or is it Suit
That's
and
right.
Tie Guy? All right. Well, I have to change it then.
Tie Guy.
We're going to change it because that's not what I have.
It's important that that's an ampersand and not the letters A and D, because ampersand is the 27th letter of the alphabet.
All right.
Just don't.
Well, and now it's also in the lower third below you. So
yeah, and believe it or not, the word ampersand comes from reciting the alphabet. And per se, and meaning like so, like X Y Z and per se and per se and ampersand. So like and per se and referring to the character of the alphabet which represents the word and. Okay. So that's I insist on having my name spelled properly.
Perfect. And I can see trying to keep this interview on any sort of rails is going to be absolutely out of the question today.
I hope that this is entertaining.
So that's absolutely perfect. So Suit and Tie Guy, you are a legend in the synthesizer community. I feel like as I came up in the modular synthesizer community, in the Eurorack community, as I started, you were always a presence. You were in this way before I was. And not to say that you're an old man, but just to say that you have serious street cred in our little crew here. So tell me a little bit, because I don't know, and I really don't know, what got you into synthesizers and what called to you that says, you know what, this is my thing.
Well, okay, let me just say I'm really flattered by your words. That's very touching. I still kind of, I mean, making the transition from somebody who basically like raises hell inside the internet and I literally like complained my way into synthesizer design. A lot of people, they might complain about things inside the internet on forums and such, but it doesn't mean anything unless you do something about it. And I accidentally started building synthesizers in 2005 because I wanted a synthesizers.com system. And
okay,
I just kept on selling. I wanted to okay, so here's how I got into synthesizers when I was in high school. Okay. And I got into synthesizers because of I liked Tomita, and then I heard Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I mean Emerson, Lake and Palmer is probably like, I mean that's like a top 5 influence for me. But I wanted, I was like, man, this Moog synthesizer, what is like this is amazing. And so ever since I was like, ever since I was, I was like 14 at the time, I think. And I mean, I was in a sea of flannel, a Midwestern high school in the height of the grunge period, 91 to 95. You have to understand is not the kind of place that you hear a lot of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So, I was not an unpopular person, but nobody shared my tastes. I'll make that perfectly clear. So, I mean,
okay.
With the 2 things I was into in high school is Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Doctor Who. And I think that's perfectly reflected in my product line. It's a reflection of me as a high schooler, but I got into like playing, making music, playing music, complaining about music inside the internet, and eventually decided to build a synthesizers.com system that I was going to pay for by producing an album for some rappers on the south side of Peoria, off of Western Avenue, and I made their tracks banging. And you can download them at suitandtieguy.com/sounds, produced by STG. And then I think the subfolder there is The Most Entertainments. And they stiffed me on the money, as you can imagine, because this is a common thing with I felt exactly like Robert Fripp when David Geffen stiffed him for producing Sacred Songs by Daryl Hall. Like Robert Fripp produced Sacred Songs and played on it, and he was paid 50% up front, and the deal was the other 50% would be like when the album was released. Well, the album was shelved for like 5 years because David Geffen thought that he told Daryl Hall that an association with Robert Fripp would be career suicide, and held back the album. And then when the album was released, Geffen reneged on the contract and did not pay Robert the rest of the money. So I felt like, it was like literally exactly the same thing. They paid me half the money to produce it was a Dirty South record, but it was being made by guys in Peoria. And I thought that was a little weird, but I'm not saying I don't think Dirty South rap is bad. I'm just saying it was just a little, like, kind of culturally, geographically, little, weird.
Hey, people like what they like.
That's correct, and there's nothing wrong with making a Dirty South hip hop record in Peoria, Illinois.
I grew up in Pittsburgh making German industrial music, so everyone's got their thing.
So I think that if you go and listen to my output and what I did for them, that you'll agree that I got stiffed, and that they got much better production work than they deserve for people that stiff their producer like that. But so I didn't have enough money to buy the synthesizers.com system, so I kind of got into synth DIY, especially my plan was to build a synthesizers.com system with Moog 901 oscillator clones as the tone source, because in an email with Mark Shreve of Redshift, he told me that that's what I should do. He felt that like the sound of the .com system was nearly perfect, but he thought that the oscillators should be 901s. I'm not sure that, Roger Eric makes a fantastic synthesizer, but from my perspective right now, I don't think that Roger's oscillator is what is the quality, like the sound difference between, say, a vintage Moog system and a synthesizers.com system. And it's actually like comparing apples and oranges. It's not a fair fight to either system. Anyway, so I was like doing the synth DIY thing, and like I was building Ray Wilson boards to teach myself how to solder, and I'd already, I had years of experience in the advertising specialties industry. I mean, in 1994, when I was still in high school, I was working for a company called Multi-Ed Services. It was a co-op job, and I learned how to use Adobe Illustrator there on a Centris 650, by the way, that I had to run in 4-color mode so that the screen would draw quicker. Okay, so that's like real Macintosh hours right there, man. Anyway, I learned how to design front panels. I did highly autistic investigation of the graphic elements of the Trumansburg era Moog modules. I had conversations with Roger Luther of the moogarchives.com, and he explained every step of the process that they used to make panels. I wound up making panels using a slightly different process called metal photo. This is a photographic aluminum. There's two different ways to put images into anodized aluminum. One of them is the metal photo process, which is a photographic aluminum where there's actually a silver solution, which anybody that has developed black and white photos knows what silver solution is. It's the photoactive element in black and white photo paper, right? So what they do is they half anodize the aluminum, and they soak the aluminum in the silver solution, okay? And you literally, like, you develop it just like black and white photo paper, like using a developer and then a fixer, okay? But the exposure is a little different with metal photo. You use a vacuum table, which I knew what a vacuum table was because I used to work in publishing, right? A vacuum table is a thing that like holds film against a thing that you're exposing. It's for what's called a contact exposure, right? That's how you do like printing plates and things like that. Anyway, so it's a photographic process. Now, Moog used a chemical etching process, which is very toxic and involves lye. And but early on, the very earliest Moog modules, the ones that still had RCA jacks on them, we're talking like 1964 here, were absolutely made with metal photo. And for some reason, Bob switched. I don't know. I don't know why you would ever switch from metal photo to a chemical etching process. The problem with the chemical etching of aluminum, and you can feel the difference if you like run your finger across metal photo. It's completely flat. If you run your finger across something that's chemical or laser etched, you're going to be able to like feel the artwork. Okay, now that's kind of cool. And definitely, like, as far as like matte finish panels go, you're going to get a deeper black that way. But the problem is that what you're doing when you're chemically etching the aluminum is you are actually exposing the bare aluminum, right? So now the bare aluminum can actually rust. The reason we anodize aluminum is to keep it from rusting. People say that aluminum doesn't rust. Well, that's ridiculous. Aluminum totally rusts, but it only rusts if you remove the anodizing layer. So I mean, there's a Moog system in Peoria from 1965, I think it's 65. Anyway, it's one of the very early, so like an 18 cabinet wide system, and the front panels they have rust all over them. It's kind of it looks beautiful. I mean, it's really cool, but I'm not really. I wanted. So yeah, I use the metal photo process. I know that it's not the same as like the majority of Moog modules, but it is the same as like the very earliest Moog modules. So I mean, that's kind of cool, right?
That's
anyway.
That's fine in my book. And I think certainly for a while there anyway, it seemed like everyone was using metal photo process for panels, whether it be for the 5U stuff or certainly in Eurorack, metal photo was how you did panels for a long time. Now, people have sort of since then moved on to do, whether it be, using plastic PCB panels or just using silk screen and powder coat. But for a long time, if you wanted to do Eurorack, you kind of had to do powder coating.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in the move that I don't really. I mean, this is my opinion, right?
Sure.
I'm not knocking anybody. I mean, like we're all friends here. But I do prefer the look of. I do prefer the look of photographic aluminum to PCB material. So, and I've visited the metal photo, well, specifically metal photo of Cincinnati, which is, I mean, metal photo is sold to all sorts of companies, awards shops and whatnot. But I've actually visited the facility in Cincinnati that like makes my panels on several occasions. And they're very nice to me, and they're sponsors of Nob Con, and just really great people over there. So I have, I mean, and actually, like their quality control is better now than it ever has been. So, and it's never been an issue for me. It never kept me from, from getting product out. And they've always been very helpful. So,
and I'm gonna refrain from commenting on this one. but your insight is helpful.
So I learned how. So Roger explained every step of the process. That was because Roger Luther's first job at Moog was making front panels. That's what they put him on. And so, which I didn't know when I emailed him. I just emailed him. I just kind of emailed him because he was the only source I could find. Like, hey, how did you guys make panels?
Mm-hmm.
And so for only the first like 3 or 4 years, all of my panels were made. I would get metal photo plates that were not yet fabricated. And I would put all of the holes and notch the corners myself. And I still break my own panels. So I get the panels in flat, and then I actually break them myself.
Oh.
I don't use a turret press like Moog did, or I believe Big Blue Wave or Resynthesis, I guess he's called now, Ben, over in the UK. He has a turret press which is identical to the turret press that was in the Moog factory, but I just had hand punches from Harbor Freight. So, anyway, so I was like, I learned the assembly, and I learned all this stuff, and I still don't. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm a product developer. I work with electrical engineers and layout artists. That doesn't mean I don't have opinions about circuits or how things should be done, but I don't actually lay the traces out on the board myself. I worked with the first person that I worked with was Paul Brooks out of St. Louis, and that didn't really pan out. He's a good guy. I have nothing bad to say about him. And Joe, and then I started working with Joe Grisso, who is someone I met on the Harmony Central Forum or LiveJournal or both. Can't remember. So somebody I met in the course of complaining about synthesizers, right? Because I basically complained my way into being a product developer. I like to, somebody says, you can't complain your way into being a product developer. I'm like, check. So, I've worked with him for a long time. We designed the Archangel together,
Mm-hmm.
and then an unfortunately unreleased product called the Spinner, which is a ring modulator. I'm sorry, a tabletop ring modulator based on the ring modulation section of the CS80, and
Ah, okay.
it adds the ability to actually track the oscillator over MIDI. So you can actually make the ring modulation part of your like sound design. Sadly, that's not released, but I work with a variety of people now. My VCO was engineered by William Mathewson Devices. The
Top-notch
wave,
crew.
oh yeah, great guys. The slicer, I'm sorry, the slicer. Anybody ever seen Gone in 60 Seconds 2? Slicer. I'm just saying, like, H.B. Helicki is a true American auteur, okay? Like, that Nicolas Cage Gone in 60 Seconds movie might be entertaining because Nicolas Cage is in it, but the original is far superior.
I'm going to take your word on that one.
Yeah. So I also, so the Wave Slicer was designed, it was engineered by John Sonnenberg, and the Wave Slicer actually happened because of his talk at Knobcon a couple of years ago about what he called wave replacement synthesis. So
yes, I remember. I watched that talk. It was really, really interesting.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I mean, I was like really happy to be able to get that on YouTube. I'm really sorry that the Knobcon YouTube channel does not have more content on it, but I'm working with a video editor now that actually will finish things. So I think that like things will improve. And yeah, so John Sonnenberg engineered that, and Joe engineered my power supply, which
nice.
I'm calling it the boat rocker.
Ooh,
Okay,
because
it's supposed to go in Mogma the 32 boats.
So now someone asked about that in the chat. Like that was the first question in the chat room. Maybe the first chat was, "Are you still?"
I'm not surprised. Like, this is painful. It's painful that I don't have this out yet. DHL was actually like has the first shipment on a truck right now. I have no idea when they're going to show up at my parents' house. It sat at the forwarder for, and by the way, like, yes, I do have my boards assembled by a Chinese contract manufacturer. Why don't you try? Try to do work in this business, like, without any kind of offshoring at all. It's not even possible. Even your components are going to come from Asia or Mexico, and that is a discussion for a different YouTube channel. But anyway, the business in the business in China right now is so bad that we use a shipping forwarder. A shipping forwarder is a company that basically collects packages until they reach a quota with DHL or FedEx or whatever, and then they get a bulk discount, and then they make money that way, right?
Yeah.
Well, the business is so shitty in China right now that my power supplies sat at the forwarder for 10 days. Okay. Usually it only takes a day for the forwarder to collect enough packages to hit their quota. And I also also should point out to everybody, this is a very difficult time for a lot of people. Okay.
Well,
and
yes.
I want to assure anybody that I am, like, the first thing I'm going to open the box outside, and I'm actually going to alcohol sanitize every board before I bring it inside. We don't know how we don't know, like, how long the this virus can last on solid surfaces. It's supposed to only last a few hours or maybe a few days. And this package set for it will be 2 weeks old by the time it gets to me. So I'm not really worried, but I just want to let people know that I am thinking about you. Okay.
We all appreciate that, Suit.
Thank you. So, man, I ramble. I'm sorry.
I didn't notice.
So,
I was busy listening.
I try to, come back, you got to come back to the topic, right? So, yeah, I mean, I work with I work with a variety of engineers right now. And, in fact, like I've been talking to your friend, Steve Reitner, Livewire Synthesizers
Yes.
about, he's working on a voltage processor for me. So
oh, cool.
I saw him finally release the voltage mechanic, and it made me think about the fact I don't have a voltage processor in Moog format. Besides, I mean, I have the active attenuators and I have the mixer. You can use them as voltage processors, but I don't have a straight voltage processor.
Yeah.
And I've got some ideas about how to do voltage processing, and I'm going to roll clipping in with gain and other. I'm trying to basically take bias, bias, gain, rectification, and clipping, and sample and hold, and noise, and a ring modulator, and put it in one Moog unit. So it's going to be really exciting.
That's a lot of things.
Yeah, if you get excited by voltage processing, then it's going to be exciting for you.
Well, I think the trick is, once you are getting excited by voltage processing, that's when you've sort of figured synthesis out.
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I mean, I think that there are people that thought that I only made filters and utility modules because I only made filters and utility modules, and I focused on utility. I'm definitely not a bit despite the fact I've been selling Eurorack modules since before literally 97% of the market right now. I mean, the companies older than me are Analog Systems, Analog Solutions, Dopefer, Plan B, Livewire, and I don't remember. I don't know. I mean, I got into the Eurorack thing pretty early, despite I didn't want to. I just wanted to make Moog format modules, but I was also trying to actually sell stuff.
Sure.
So I was actually building in all four formats at once. I was building in Moog format, MOTM format, FRAC rack, and Eurorack. And keeping track of 4 different formats is a lot more difficult than keeping track of 2.
Oh,
so
I can't imagine.
Excise a couple of those, and it made it easy. MOTM people made that decision very easy because I had more complaints about the way my modules looked in sales. So I decided that it just wasn't worth it.
Fair enough.
And it's we just need Moog format. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful, it's such an amazing, an amazingly pleasant, rectangular arrangement. And there's so much room to play with. And I just love it. I mean, I like Eurorack as well, because there's things that you can do design-wise in Eurorack that you just can't do in Moog. But when I
the Moog format is so good because you have height. It has height, and that's what drives me crazy about designing for Eurorack. There's no height. You can't. Not everything is just short and wide. Sometimes you need a little bit of height to to design an interface that makes sense for whatever's happening. Oh, it drives me crazy.
Well, I take that as an opportunity. Basically, anybody who's familiar with my product line is going to notice that Moog format modules are designed for Moog format, and Eurorack modules are designed for Eurorack format. That
True.
you cannot just take a UI and replicate it one to one. You have to take the format into consideration. And something that I do, which I mean, it irritates some people, but I don't care, is that I was fascinated by the way Emu in the 70s had this very logical arrangement of signal inputs on the left, control inputs on the bottom, and outputs on the right. And I thought, that's neat. That's a neat way to do it. So I have always put in Eurorack, if it's a wide module, not a dot series module, but I've always put my inputs on the left and my outputs on the right. And there's a reason for that. It's kind of a tribute to Dave Rossum on one hand. Also, like, I just thought it made a lot of sense. So, there are a lot of people like to put their jacks on the bottom in Eurorack, and I find that I get confused. I like the signal flow of my own stuff, but I mean, like, everybody's cool. I'm not. Anyway.
Hey, that's why we get to design the stuff, because we make it the way we want to make it.
I noticed
it is what it is.
You don't do all the jacks on the bottom, if I remember right. You kind of you take a much freer approach, at least in your earlier work. I don't know about now. I haven't really kept up with all of your products. I'm very sorry. It's hard for me to keep up with everybody's
This is over.
Okay.
No, my approach has really been to play to whatever design language I'm working with. So the original design language really was, I was trying to put across this punk rock aesthetic. So I put jacks next to pots, next to wherever I want. I wanted it to look like I was throwing everything at the panel.
I also like the use of the Dymo font.
Well, of course. But recently, no, I have settled down, and stuff is typically at either the top or the bottom. Depending on whatever works within the UI whatever I'm trying to design. What I found is it's easier to explain to people what's going on. I've done it so many different ways, just trying to figure it out, because I know what I like, but what it came down to was it's not necessarily what works for me. It's what people understand the easiest and what makes sense to most people, because I'm designing, obviously I'm designing the sound for me, but I want people to be able to use the stuff. So I've played around with it, and what I'm doing now is sort of what I feel like works best, but I suspect that'll change again 6 months from now. Who knows?
Cool.
What I'm trying to say is I'm not locked into one sort of thought process. As long as it's consistent with the design language that I'm using at the time is really all that matters to me.
I'm glad you think about these things.
It's all I think about.
Well, it is actually possible to, to execute circuits without thinking about the user interaction and the interface. It is possible. I prefer the results of, like a well-considered UI. That was like something that was one of those things that I used to, I was like back when I didn't hold my tongue inside the internet. Like that was one of the things that would. I know people are thinking like, oh, you mean you used to hold your anyway. But no, like the short answer of like, how did I get started? Like basically like STG SoundLabs happened because I found myself one day accidentally building synthesizers. I didn't set out to be a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted something for myself. And I realized that I had sold my entire studio except for my Eventide and my Hammond and one Leslie to pay for this hobby.
Yeah.
And I had picked up all these skills, Let me go get something. I'll be right back.
All right.
Well, I mean, when I say right back, I mean, like I'm off camera, but I still have the headset on. So, but I'm going to, I'm grabbing like something.
No, I'm sorry. If we can't see you, you're not allowed to talk. I don't think it works that way. People aren't going to know what's going on. They have no idea who's talking right now.
behind the camera right now.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
So,
We don't
okay.
need to social distance over the internet. You can, but we
Social
can be in the,
distancing from your own live.
we can both be in the screen at the same time. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely have 6 feet. Like, I want 6 feet between my bully box, and I love the term bully box. It's so funny. Like, you know, you watch the cable news shit, and they've got like the 2-shot or whatever, and it's just like this. Oh yeah, they've got him in the bully box again. You know, like that's so. So this was right here. This was the first thing that I made. Okay, this is a Moog format front panel for Doepfer quantizers.
Okay.
This was a request from the synthesizers.com mailing list at Yahoo groups. And if you can see here, it's in a C-frame. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this C-frame was made by Chris Halsey for Mike Buckeye, however you pronounce his name. The guy that was Moog Custom Engineering or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, Mike Buckeye ran out of C-frames, and he also owed Chris like 11 envelope generators or something like that. So Chris actually had to get these C-frames made. I don't even know if Chris ever got his envelope generators from Mike. But so he gave me he actually he sent me the panel back with the C-frame. And so this is my, you know, this is my example of this used to. Now, something really funny on the back is like this was from a late 70s blueprint for a Moog C-frame, and right here there was actually a punch out for like a DB9 or DB25 connector, something like that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, like I guess like at one point Moog was going to experiment with like a different way to like some sort of like digital control of the modules or something like, and it just never went anywhere. But
interesting.
You know, kind of interesting to see. You know, like it's interesting to see that when you look at you look at products in that transition phase. I mean, Moog was also like constantly like refining the PCBs. There's like I think there's like 5 or 6 different PCE layouts for the 901 oscillators, and you know there's different revisions and whatnot. But the short answer is like I just started accidentally building synthesizers, and then
the short answer.
Yeah,
that was the short answer.
Yeah, that's the short answer. Oh. So how did you get started?
All right, everybody.
I'm the interviewer now.
How did I get started?
Yeah. What like are you from Pittsburgh? Why the name Pittsburgh Modular? Like what like you know, what tell me like who is Richard Nicol? Is that how your name is pronounced, by the way? Nicol?
Nicol, yes.
Okay, cool.
I am it's Pittsburgh Modular because I am from Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I was essentially born and raised here, and Pittsburghers have I don't know why we're really proud of Pittsburgh, and we love Pittsburgh for no reason at all. It's not like
have you seen the
awesome,
Pennsylvania?
I'm sorry.
Have you seen the Pennsylvania episode of the Kroll Show?
I have not.
About
no.
the two pawn shops, one in Pittsburgh and one in Philadelphia.
I'll have to. I'll have to watch it.
By brothers. Okay, you really should. There's a lot of like, you know, regional. Anyway, so
that's good.
In Pittsburgh, very proud of being from Pittsburgh.
We're all proud of being from Pittsburgh, and I think it's because our city's. It was an important city in the world, and it sort of went downhill, and now we're clawing our way back just from hard work, and we're proud to see what we've been able to accomplish over the last 25 years. So for that reason, and Pittsburgh, it kind of, and again, I was going for that sort of punk rock aesthetic when I started the company. So Pittsburgh Modular had kind of a tough sound to it. It's sort of a gritty sort of sound to it. It's sort of a Rust Belt vibe to it. So that's where that came from. But it's sort of evolved since then. But I got into making synthesizers just because buying them was getting too expensive. And I was a software developer.
Yeah. Okay.
I was a software developer by day, so I would come home at night and I would tinker around with hardware synthesizers because I couldn't bring myself to work on a computer when I got home. So it had to be hardware. So I started and then DIYing little things here and there. And as I was getting into Eurorack, I realized that I can't afford to keep buying this stuff. So, but I was DIYing some of my own stuff. So, and this was really early on when there wasn't a whole lot of manufacturers. And I had come up with what I thought was an interesting circuit. So I emailed Sean at Analog Haven and I said, "Hey, Sean, I have this idea for this product I'm going to make. Are you interested in selling a couple of them?" And I was really hoping he would take 5. I thought that's a reasonable number. And if I sell 5, I'll be able to use the profits from that and buy 2 modules. I thought that's great. If I could do that every month, if I could sell 3 or 4 modules a month, I'd be able to buy 1 or 2 modules of other people's stuff a month. And that would fuel my sort of gas and I could keep doing this Eurorack thing. And I had a .com system at the time as well. So I was, and my .com system was expanding as fast as my Euro system. So I called Sean. It was an email. I sent him an email, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll take 50." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I then reached out to Roger at Big City Music, and I said, "Hey, doing this thing. I don't know if you're interested." He said, "Oh, well, how many did Sean take?" And I said, "Oh, Sean took 60." And he said, "Well, I'll take 62 then." I'm like, "All right." So now I had over 100 of these things to build. I'd never built anything in my life other than, the 5 or 6 prototypes that I'd done. And now I had owned a software company, so I knew how to sell things, but I would make one, upload it to the internet, and that would just sort of magically disperse. So I learned very quickly that because all the original Pittsburgh stuff was all hand built by me in my basement. I learned really quickly that that's a slow process, but it turned out to be incredibly gratifying and really, it was really fun to be part of that early scene. And I really felt like I was contributing something beyond what my musical skills would allow me to contribute to this community. And so that was sort of the very beginning of Pittsburgh Modular. And that's way before, we were a company and had employees and all that. This was in the basement of my house where I had stacks of boxes going up the stairs. And I would, come home from work at 5 o'clock and then go downstairs and work on Pittsburgh Modular stuff until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then do it again the next day. But I think my story is probably very similar to a lot of Eurorack companies out there, where it's just, you're doing it out of love. None of us are getting rich doing this, but what it allows us to do is sort of scratch that creative itch and share something with a community that we feel very deeply and very strongly about. And so the fact that I can contribute to that is what continues to allow me to do this.
And how many employees do you have now?
Right now we have 5 employees, 5.5,
Wow.
5.5 employees.
So you get the top half of the employee or the bottom half? Sorry, it's too easy.
In this case, it would absolutely be the top half.
Maybe the left half or the right half. Like, that'd be kind of uncomfortable. Like,
Yes. In Pittsburgh Modular, we've been different sizes over the years. We were a larger company at one point. We've been a smaller company. But this is kind of where we want to be. We decided, or we sort of figured out relatively quickly as we grew, that we didn't want to be a business. We didn't want to grow and be bosses and start some sort of small corporate structure. What I was interested in was building things and designing things and creating things. So everything at this point in Pittsburgh Modular is really built around allowing me the space and the time to work creatively. And so as we as we carry on, we're not getting any bigger, but hopefully our products are getting better and they're getting more interesting to musicians without us having to worry about having 75 products in stock at all times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I mean, it sounds to me like you got a pretty good attitude. Now, I do have a question that's going to like inform a lot of the chat room, like what life is like for me, and
Okay.
like what my sales figures are like. And that question is, so what's it like having employees?
It's great. It's great. You know what? The nice thing about employees, and I don't have that many, but I've had everyone that works with me now has been with the company 7-8 years. So the crew that we have, we are a team, and we've been the same team really since the beginning. We've had some people sort of come and go between then, but this crew I have now is the core crew that I set up when I first started hiring people, sort of desperately needing help. And the people that came to me were just such great people and had such unique skills, and they fit perfectly. So we've built this little puzzle that everyone has stuck around. It's been great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But employees are good. I don't know. I would recommend it.
Well, I like when I say that I don't have employees. I don't want to offend the guy who sleeps on my couch. He there's a video artist named Bubba Ayub that Juggable Offense, I believe, is the name of his Instagram account. But he's my booth manager for trade shows, and like he does, he helps me out here, and like it's I mean I have difficulty, like I think that he would be offended if I said he wasn't an employee, but I would feel weird about calling him an employee. He's one of my best friends, and I've known him since he was 15. His dad brought him to the Analog Heaven Midwest gathering when and I just his dad was like the most eccentric human being I've ever met in my life. He's no longer with us, but anyway.
Well, I think employee is a legal term, and part of the team would be what you want to be as part of the team anyway.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, because that's what we're all doing here is we are building a community, and we're building this community because this is what we're passionate about. Synthesizers are what I'm passionate about. Talking about synthesizers is why you're here with me today, socially distant, and why people are listening to us ramble on, because they want to hear, people want to talk about synthesizers, and people want to hang out in the chat room and talk about synthesizers. And that's why we're doing this. And that's why it's fun. So, in that sense, we're all kind of on the same team here.
Yeah. This market is not, like I would never call anybody in this market a competitor of me, and I'm not anybody's competitor. What we do is we sell low ticket luxury goods, and these are not commodities. This is not toilet paper. Okay. Well, first of all, you can actually buy it right now. Anyway, but I've always said that, I'm kind of an economics nerd, or I have at least been in the past. I was like captivated by the topic for years. But the economic rules that apply to commodity markets do not apply to luxury markets. And, there's nobody, like, people don't, like, Bugatti does not compete with Rolls-Royce. People that are going to buy a Rolls-Royce are going to buy a Rolls-Royce. And if they are interested in a Bugatti, they'll pick one of those up too. Exactly. And we're working with products that are much more affordable than Rolls-Royces and Bugattis. Even Walter Holland can't design a Eurorack synthesizer that expensive. But like, wait, by the way, he's a total genius. That guy absolutely like possibly 4-digit IQ. Like he's the most he's the smartest designer I've ever met in my life, and he's such a wonderful man. I'm just like impressed that he could design a synthesizer that expensive. But even, but if you're going to buy a Holland synthesizer, you're going to buy a Holland synthesizer.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy it instead of an STG SoundLabs synthesizer.
No, that's how I've always felt about this stuff is we're all playing at our own little fields, and people are going to walk through and pick and choose what's right for them. That's what makes modular synthesizers great, is because you can go through and pick a little bit of this and a little bit of that and design something that allows you to get the creativity out of your head as an artist instead of buying here's a box that does all these sounds kind of thing. It's important.
It's a buffet. It's a buffet or a salad bar.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to, if you don't have to settle on a synthesizer. You can adapt the instrument to your needs. And, a lot of people, they'll ask me about like, what should I buy? Or what do you think of this or whatever? And, what kind of modules do you think I should have in my system? And I can't answer that question for them often because they're not me. I know what I need.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But I mean, like, even when I've got a system that now that I have VCOs, which, sorry, they're not shipping yet. I mean, we've kind of had this emergency thing happen. But right now they're actually finishing my manufacturing prototypes for the .VCO, this week, and then they'll ship. So I should have them next week. And then if I can verify the design, then I can put it in manufacturing, and then I can ship the,
so the radiophonic will come out after that?
Yeah, but I have to get the case solution figured out for Radiophonic 1.
Okay.
Originally my idea was that I thought that I was going to be in a relationship with Moog Music, as far as like selling them power supplies and them selling me cases. And I don't know if that's going to happen now because nothing bad, just like the product development manager that I talked to about that doesn't work there anymore. So
because business.
Yeah. And I mean,
yeah,
like, I don't think that what I said is at all disparaging or negative. It's just like a thing that I got to deal with, right? So I'm actually looking at working with Company of Quail, manufacturer of the famous Electron EIT, whatever the hell he called it, like that aluminum frame for Rev 1 Electron boxes. You've probably seen them.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's my friend. That's my friend Watson down in Bristol, Virginia. And
Company of Quail has been hanging out in the live chat here as well. So shout out to Company of Quail.
Hi, Watson. So the rails in this box are his extrusion. He picked up. He decided to get into aluminum extrusion, and he designed a very, 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 very nice Eurorack rail.
Well, then he should send me an email.
He should. But it's hard to see here because literally it's black on black. But I've got a flashlight out. Do you see the nut there, or the screw? I think it is. Yeah, that's a screw, not a nut.
I do not, but I believe you that it's there.
Okay. What about now? Can you see it now? Do you see that screw head? It's like a hex head screw.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what's holding the rails in. They're threaded M6.
Okay.
And so Yeah, I actually designed this case myself. This is the Rev 1 prototype. It
Okay.
actually has the Rev 2 boat rocker power supply in it. And it turned out pretty well. This is not a saleable product at this design. I have to make the box a 1/16 of an inch longer. And then if you see there's, I don't know if you can tell, but can you see T-nuts, the T-nuts on the bottom here?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to place those holes. This is all laser cut. This is made out of bamboo plywood, and it is painted in caterpillar yellow and black. Okay. Caterpillar is from Peoria, Illinois. When I met Bubba's dad, I told him that I was from Peoria, Illinois, and he said, "Oh, cradle of Western civilization." And I said, "Well, I mean, I think so, but why do you think so?" And he said, "Because that's where Caterpillar comes from." And I said, "Okay, that's an argument. Yeah, okay, cool." And I mean, there's a thought process to that. And he said, "I always said that he was this tubby Lebanese guy with the mustache and wore Carhartt clothing." Anyway, he's like, "I always said God drives a D11 track. He drives a D11 bulldozer and plays a Moog modular synthesizer." And I said, "Oh, I can agree with that. I think that if God was to have a car, yeah, sure, D11 sounds good." And I mean, if you were to play a synthesizer, yeah, I mean, Moog modular sounds right. And so Bubba is really into Caterpillar as a thing. And so like I'm giving him this prototype so that he can put the Buchla modules that he's got, the Buchla Eurorack modules.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This. Yeah. So I painted it. I actually I was not able to find the specific Caterpillar yellow Rust-Oleum, but believe it or not, there is one. But I painted it this is very, very close. Very, very close.
The chat room seems to think that it's black and gold for Pittsburgh.
Okay. Well, I mean, cool. I mean, maybe people in Pittsburgh are going to go for this case, but so I did this on a lark because it was like, LOL, right? I mean, LOL Caterpillar, right? And then I got to thinking, and okay, so like Caterpillar, I mean, do you like bridges? You like roads? You like buildings and shit?
I'm from Pittsburgh.
Cool?
I'm from Pittsburgh. I mean, we are the city of bridges.
A lot of the steel that got used in Caterpillar tractors, right? So, yeah, like, okay, so like when Bubba's dad said "cradle of Western civilization," I was like, oh, I mean, what would this place be like without earth moving equipment? It'd be kind of shitty. I mean, there's some people that would get really excited about that, but I prefer to enjoy this sculpted landscape that we live in. And other things I like doing, I like food, and so like there's other like earth moving, like other heavy equipment manufacturers in Illinois help you eat food, like John Deere out of Moline. And the most famous tractor company the most famous farm implement company of all time has to be International Harvester, which was out of Chicago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a whole line of Eurorack cases that are tributes to John Deere, International Harvester, and Caterpillar. So this is Caterpillar yellow and black, so I'll call this Peoria yellow, right? And then change the shade of yellow for John Deere, and so like it'll be green here and then yellow on top, and then International Harvester red on the bottom and like a white, and I mean I think it's completely it makes a lot of sense to basically like identify like the smallest Eurorack synthesizer you could possibly have with heavy equipment, right?
I think it makes so much sense. It hurts. It hurts.
Hey, do we have any super chats? Anybody who's super chatting us right now?
I don't. I don't know. I don't think we have super chat set
We
up.
have super chats enabled. Okay,
we do not. We
Okay.
do not. Bob Rogue says hello to you, by the way.
Bob Rogue, hi Bob.
Yes.
Hi Bob.
Which is a great way for me to jump in and say next week, Tuesday, the 22nd, which I think is next week, Bob will be the guest on this here Synthesizer Talk Show. We will be talking about Black Corporation and all the fun Black Corporation things and Tokyo and all that sort of fun stuff. It will be at a very different time because Bob lives in a very different time. And we're going to go from there. So that's that. And now back to Suit and Tie Guy.
I gotta say that Black. I owe Roman. I feel like I learned something from Roman that was a huge deal for me. And when I met Roman the first time, I believe I hugged him and I thanked him for showing me this. And this is that back when he was, we all know what Roman used to do, right? This is not secret anymore, right?
I'm not telling it. I'm not saying anything. I don't know. I don't know what's public and what's not. And I certainly don't want to get in trouble. I'll leave that to Bob next week.
I didn't mean to blow up his spot. Okay.
No.
There were some DIY products that Roman used to make. Okay. And they were in Moog format. And a friend of mine bought one and he brought it over to my studio. Sadly, he's no longer, but that's another story. He brought it over to my studio to assemble. And I saw the front panel PCB and I said, holy shit, that's how you do it. Because I didn't know how to put 24 millimeter pots and jacks on the same plane. And he figured it out because he's Russian. See, I didn't figure it out because I'm not Russian. A Russian engineer will figure it out. And he did. His solution was so fucking Russian. It hurts. It's painful. And that is that he just he didn't use the manufacturer suggested footprint for the jack. He made his own footprint so he could slam it all the way down to the plastic. Okay? Very impressive. That's real fucking engineering right there. Engineering is problem solving. Engineering doesn't mean you have a degree or that you went to a certain school, Paul Schreiber. Okay, you can be an engineer. Look, I love Paul to death, but I do. He's a great guy, but you. And by the way, I love hearing Paul Schreiber talk shit so much that I believe that one of the lectures we're going to have at Knobcon this year is just called Paul Schreiber Talks Shit. I'm not sure if I can get away with calling it that, but that's definitely what I asked him. I said, hey, Paul, I want to do this thing where you just kind of rant for an hour, tell stories or whatever. I'll just call it Paul Schreiber Talks Shit for an hour. What do you think?
That's. I think if you called it anything else, it would be disingenuous.
Yeah, it would be unfair. It would be disrespectful.
Yes, anyway, it would.
Engineering is not what school you went to or how many letters you have after your name. Engineering is problem solving. And what Roman did, very simple, very, very simple. And it helped me so much. I was finally able to get, I was finally able to solve this problem of how to actually do this, right? And so, yeah, I copied his footprint, and that's what I use on my Moog format modules. And I see other people in the format that don't do it the same way that I do, and um, they probably should buy one of my modules and
I think they should.
copy it.
I think they
Yeah,
should.
like they should be my customers so they can learn how I did it with only one panel instead of like three or whatever, you know. So I still have to use two PCBs though, because what I do, since I support two product lines, I've got the front panel PCB and then a main board. Is there any like interesting stuff going on in the chat room? Do we have some comments or that are fun? Because I can't see the chat room.
William wants to know what's in your glass. What are you drinking?
Which William?
William Manganaro.
Oh, okay.
Manganaro. I apologize if I'm botching your last name.
It's okay. This is a water bottle.
Okay.
It's a Kroger brand purified drinking water. Okay.
Okay.
And this is Johnny Walker Red Label.
Excellent.
I wanted to have like I wanted to have coffee here as well, but I didn't actually get here soon enough. But
that's
whatever.
all right. We did have a question earlier, and we'll get to the questions here in a bit because I have a couple more questions for you.
Oh yeah,
I feel like
cool.
I had a list of questions. I asked you one, and then we're here. But that's okay. But we had another.
If you don't mind, I'm like, keep talking. I have to go get the thing so I can plug the phone in.
I will.
Yeah, keep talking.
Okay. The question for you is, and I don't know. I don't really know what this question is, but it's, would you mind asking him about the VCO and the tuning implementation? So I don't know anything about this. So you,
who is it that's asking the question is my first question.
That's Company of Quail is asking that question.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So like, do they want to know like what the status of the VCO is? Because I think I covered that already, that it's like basically almost done.
No, they want to know about the tuning.
Okay, so the way that it's tuned, I did this thing that like, so most synthesizer tuning is done with coarse and fine tune, or Moog style, which is like like range and frequency, right? And I was playing. I don't like rotary switches because high quality rotary switches are, they're expensive.
They're super expensive.
And basically, like, rotary switches spend their entire life breaking. That's what they do, right?
Yep.
So what I decided to do was start replacing rotary switches with scanned potentiometers. And because it's like, even the cheapest potentiometer is, even the cheapest potentiometer has a longer lifespan than like an expensive rotary switch. And so, okay, I got it plugged in now. So the first idea that I had was, to like, okay, I'll have the range switch be scanned, right? And it would be a scanned potentiometer. Now, you'd be like, well, I mean, that's not actually a new thing because that's what Roland did on the Jupiters. Okay. So it's not really like a new idea. Mm-hmm. And I was going to have, the way Roland did it on the Jupiters is by, it was octaves and then like semitones, like in between the octaves.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to do was just have octaves and then semitones, like that. What I wanted to do was basically just have it like Moog style, where there was like a range pot that would give you octaves, and then the fifth in between the octaves, and then like a plus or minus 7 semitone analog tuning control, right? And I was explaining this to Eric Norlander. Do you know Eric Norlander?
I do not.
Okay, so he he was a project manager on the Alesis Andromeda, and then he was as far as I'm concerned, the greatest prog metal keyboard player um, of the 2000s, and then he went back into product development. Now he works for IK Multimedia, and he, I like I used to listen to this guy's records for reference when I was still mixing music for other people. I was producing a heavy metal, a prog metal record, and I was literally using Eric Norlander's albums as reference material for what they should sound like. And then when Eric came to Knobcon, I met him, and I was like, "Cool, this guy. I love this guy. We're friends now. Cool, excellent." So I'm telling him about this like tuning thing, and he says like, "Well, can you do it differently? Can you have like 3 knobs instead, where like one is octave, and then one is semitone, and then one is just detune?" And I thought to myself, I'm not going to do that. That's too complicated. I thought about it for a few minutes or for a few days or whatever, and then I said, "Hey, Eric, I'm going to do that thing you wanted me to do." So that's the way the tuning system works, and it's so like my I like to say that like my VCO is the world's most technologically advanced analog VCO, because it has $10 worth of digital stuff in it. There's a microprocessor. There's a standalone digital to analog converter. And the reason for this is to facilitate the tuning controls, and also there's a drift generator built into it. So it has a kind of an unidentified frequency oscillator that is normalized the modulation input. So you can introduce, because it's the core of my VCO is the same as the WMD, the DPO or PDO. I can't remember what it's called. PDO, the PDO and the spectrum or something like that, basically. And I asked William to do this because his core, like he told me some technical things about it that will be obvious to anybody that opens up my VCO and looks at it. That made me think like, this is it uses very, very, very high speed switch in the relaxation core, so that you don't even need to worry about the high frequency compensation problem. Okay. And I thought that was neat as shit. And I said, I want to have, if I'm going to have an oscillator, and it's not going to be a 901, because when Moog started building modules again, I kind of decided I'm still going to make the mixer forever. And I mean, like I could possibly do something 902 based, but I'm not really, and I mean, I do have 911, an exact 911 copy in my digital envelope generator. But it's not, it's not a clone or anything. It just does exactly the same thing. If I'm going to have like an oscillator that's not the 901 that I set out, I'll go get the, I actually have a front panel, an unused. So here is an unused STG Soundlabs 901B front panel. Okay. Nice. Anybody that like looks at my Moog format system might see that there are 2 of these panels that are in it, but they're not 901s. They're synthesizers.com Q106s. Okay. Use panels. Yeah. Of course, nobody ever noticed this, so I guess it really doesn't matter what kind of oscillator you use. Anyway, I mean, literally nobody ever like played my synthesizer at a show or a meetup or something like that and said, that doesn't sound like a 901 oscillator. They were just Q106s. So, hey, Mark Shreve, like, that's kind of funny, right? Anyway, I wanted Williams' core, and I wanted the I kind of had a more stripped down approach to the waveforms.
Mm-hmm.
See, I already have a pulse converter in my product line.
Okay.
It's called Pulse Matrix. Okay. And I already have a sine converter in my line. It's called the wave folder. Most people don't realize this, but my wave folder is essentially like a sine converter on steroids. It is a Hable wave folder. It is not the other kind of wave folders that people use. So it's actually based on a sine converter. It just has a lot more diodes in it.
Okay.
So I was like, I really only need a sawtooth wave and a triangle wave.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can do whatever else I want, right, out of that. And by the way, if you want a really good sine wave, don't use a relaxation core, use a filter. The Mankato filter is a fantastic sine wave oscillator. So, like you just don't even, you're never going to take a sawtooth wave and make a good sine wave out of it. It's just not possible. But you can definitely get something close to a sine, like, well, it looks like a sine wave on the scope, but it's not. And it sounds like a sine wave, but it's not a sine wave like a self-oscillating filter can do.
No, sure. And the approach we've always taken for that is, we calibrate to our ear and we trim to our ear, we design to our ear, and we know that it's never going to be a perfect sine, but that's not what we're going for. We're going for a sound. So we search for the sound, not the shape. Because I agree with you. Yeah, you're not going to get it.
No. But and then I had this idea that since to have a sub-octave generator that was running off of the reset of the core.
Uh-huh.
So instead of like resolving most sub-octave generators, like I think all of them they just do like a division off of a pulse converter. But what I wanted was something that was running off of the core of the oscillator, so that if you put the oscillator into hard sync, that you would get different sub-octave results than if you were using a pulse converter.
Okay.
If you think about it enough, you'll understand. It's like, it's not obvious, and it may not even sound different, but I know that it's different. I can see it on the, because it basically, like, if you're a sub-octave generator is just like a 1-2 counter, right? It's a two-stage counter. Well, if you're resetting that counter every time the core discharges, well, and then you're discharging the core additionally from a hard sync, then you're going to be like increasing that counter every time you sync the oscillator. So you're going to get a different signal than if you were running that counter off of a pulse converter, basically. So
I'm sure you will, but I don't know if you're going to hear it. You may.
I don't know. I just know that it's different. I don't know if it sounds.
I
didn't know what it was going to sound like until it was done. Like, I just kind of imagined this fucking oscillator, and then like wrote up a specification sheet, and then sent it to William and said, make this. And he's like, cool, it's going to cost this much. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can sell my whole drum machine collection. And and I did. No, it's fine. Okay. It's fine. It's not sad that I paid my friend money to design something that makes my system of German idealism complete, or whatever you want to.
And you can always get the drum machines back, right?
I mean, not those specific machines.
You don't even want them back. Well, then screw the drum machines. Make oscillators.
Well, no. What I mean is, I was okay selling my drum machine collection because the Roland TR-8 is such a good drum machine that I actually had stopped using the vintage drum machines. I had three TR-8s. Now I have two and a TR-8S.
Okay.
And I basically have one TR-8 dedicated to being an 808, one TR-8 dedicated to being a 909, And then the TR-8S I use for 707 and other sampled sounds, and drum beats that I want to actually put a name on. Like the TR-8S is a better drum machine if you want to compose beats.
Mm-hmm.
I think the TR-8 is a better drum machine for improvisational playing.
Okay.
So that's why I'm using a mixture of both.
Okay.
It's definitely my favorite drum machines. I also own I have a Behringer I have a Behringer RD 808.
So
not
do I.
an RD.
Full disclosure, so do I.
Oh, you have an original 808 too?
No, I have the Behringer
Right.
RD8.
But you don't have the Behringer RD 808.
No.
Okay. So they changed the name of it before they actually manufactured it.
Yes, I remember.
From the 808 to the RD8. I have an RD 808.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I actually don't even. I mean, it's complicated. I'm not going to sit here and trash talk Behringer.
No, that's not what we're here to do. We're talking about stuff that we like and stuff that we use. I think that drum machine's great, but I have a ton of drum machines because I'm a drum machine nut. So for me, it solves a specific problem in my studio, but it's just a piece, and I have a ton of them, and I grab whatever piece I want to use that day, and I make music with it. Because to me, unlike I think a lot of people, to me, this stuff, they're tools. Because I'm a designer of synthesizers, and I love synthesizers, but to me, it's more important that they're tools than they are pieces of art to gawk at. So stuff like the Behringer thing and all my drum machines, because I don't make drum machines, to me they're a tool, and I have them in my studio because they solve a problem and they allow me to do something. And I think for that reason they're fantastic. All of the drum machines, I'm obsessed with them.
I just brought up the Behringer thing because a lot of people are very comfortable. There's a lot of people that are like very comfortable about complaining about Behringer, and I'm just not. I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough. And I'm not here to ask you to.
No, but I will say this, that like the RD8 is a very, very fine sounding drum machine, and the people that designed it are fantastic people, and I'm really glad that I met them. Okay.
Yeah.
And anyway, I just don't play the RD8 because I like the TR8 so much. I like the TR8 and the TR8S so much that I was trying to mix the TR8S and the RD808, and I was going to get the RD909 as well. And I just didn't. I really like the TR8. So I put the RD808 back in the box, and I actually, like, my friend Nathan Hahn has it. I believe he's a CNS Hahn on Instagram. That's the only social media he uses. But he posts, like, he has an organic farm up in Galva, Illinois, and he posts videos from his studio of just him playing guitar and using synthesizers. It's pretty cool. Like,
so
it's
what?
Really nice.
The chat room is asking what drum machines you had in the past. TR-505. Did you have a Tempest? What were some of the drum machines of past for you?
Okay, I have the 505. I've had several of those. I've had a couple of CR8000s. 707, 727. I never gigged with those. I had like the 707, 727, and the I'd never had a TB 303, but I had the boutique, the TB3.
Oh, sure, yeah,
which I actually bought from previous guest Eric Fox.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I had so I had like the 707, the 727, and the TB3, and I'm like, oh shit, I've got like this is like the acid tracks rig, right? Like HU, which by the way, Future, who attended Nob Con as guests, yeah, back like Earl and Rico came to. I think his name was Rico. I can't remember. I think it was. Anyway, yeah, like yeah, they came to. Yeah, Earl is Spanky. His name in his stage name is Spank, and
Okay.
I'm almost certain that do you like acid? Do you like Future? PHU?
I
Are you into
I
acid house?
I honestly don't think I've ever heard it.
Okay, so acid house was invented when Future took a 303 and plugged it into a 707 and
Yes,
a 7
I do know. Yes.
and made a song called Acid Tracks.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm strongly aware of the track. Yes.
Okay.
It's a classic.
So, I had this Acid Tracks set up, and I called up a friend of mine my friend that like got me into old school Chicago house music. Like when I met him, he was like driving around in a Mercedes Benz. Oh shit, I don't remember the model number, but it was a cool like 1990s Benz sedan, and he was just like jamming WBMX like air check tapes all the time. So he's like listening to like tapes recorded off of the air of like what the Hot Mix 5 were doing like back in the 80s. And that's kind of how I got into that. Like that opened my eyes about like, that there was like a historical house music that I could really vibe with. Cause like most of the dance music I was into up to that point was 90s stuff. Like I liked hard floor. I liked a lot of like Prototype 909 and stuff like that. But and Orbital. But then I'm not really into like modern house music, but definitely like 80s and then early 90s house music. I'm really into that. But anyway, like I sold him the whole setup because he's a house head. I also had the 808 and I had a 909, and yeah, they're all gone. I do not own any vintage drum machines anymore.
And I don't blame you. I have one, and it seems like every time I want to use it, I have to turn it on 4 times before it works properly, and half the time the MIDI that's been modded into it doesn't work properly, and it's a pain in the ass. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
All this stuff was really reliable for me. I played gigs with this stuff. I actually took that 808 and that 909, went to dozens of psytrance parties in the middle of nowhere that I barely got paid for if I did. And, people would see like, why did you bring $10,000 worth of drum machines to the fucking cornfield? And I'm like, because I wanted to make music. Like I had this stuff because I wanted to put. I'll never experience what it's like to live in 1980s Chicago and be part of that scene, but I could at least buy the instruments that they made the music with.
Sure.
And get behind the driver's seat that way and like understand the music better. And what I learned is that after I did that and after I had those experiences, I could go back to the modern stuff, especially since the TR-8 sounded so good. I mean, yeah, I can't tell the difference unless you're tweaking it out beyond the parameters of the original.
Yeah.
I could go back to that, and then because I was informed by my experience with the vintage instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to. It just gave me what I felt was a well-rounded education. Then I could go back to the modern technology, and it's not the same as if I just started out using it, right?
So do you think that gives you do you think it limits you at all because you grew up using the original instruments and now you're using the modern version of it? Do you think that you limit yourself by trying to replicate your original instruments, or do you utilize the new drum machine for everything it does, sort of beyond the scope of the originals?
No, I don't think it limits it. I think that when I'm using 909 sounds
Mm-hmm.
or 808 sounds, I am not trying to sound modern.
Mm-hmm.
That's an element that gets brought in, and Mark Doty, like, he can't stand these drum machines, because of he's like, we've already heard these sounds, blah 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 blah, like they're old sounds. And by the way, I love Mark Doty to death. Maybe we'll have a public debate about this sometime. It would be really funny.
I should reach out. I should reach out to him. I'll have him on, and you guys could. We could have a drum machine off.
But no, if I'm using these drum machine sounds, I know that they sound old. I'm using them because they sound old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to have like this element from the past in the music that I'm making now. Like, I play my Hammond B3 because it's a Hammond organ, And like, if I use the Hammond XK1, the world's best clone wheel. Okay, it's not a clone wheel; it's a Hammond. I'm contractually obligated to tell you that.
Fair enough.
I'm actually a Hammond artist, so I have to say that.
Okay.
It's fine. Because I believe it. It's real. Hammond Suzuki makes the best digital tone wheel organ simulators in the world. They're fantastic. And when I use the XK1,
you heard it here first, people. You heard it here first.
When I use the XK1 in my music, I'm not trying to sound. That sound isn't supposed to sound modern. That's supposed to sound like an echo of the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I take these echoes of different pasts and I mix them together, and that's my fucking music. Okay? So I'm not interested in a Tempest. I'm not interested in a machine drum. I'm not interested in these modern drum machines, except for the IK Uno drum. But that's something else. I'm not interested in these. They're all fine drum machines, but I'm using these sounds for specific. They resonate with me, like they mean something to me when I hear them, and I want to have that aspect in my music. So yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, does it limit me to have that experience with the 909? Well, no, because what I'm doing is I'm making the same beats I would have made on the 909, but I can just make them quicker because the UI of the TR8 is superior to the UI of the 909.
So much better. So much better.
And so I can make the same kind of beats I would have made on the 909, but I can interact with them better, and they sound the fucking same. And then I can actually tweak them beyond the parameter range, and I can make them sound not like the original if I want. And by the way, I also use scatter all the time because I love scatter. Okay.
Nice.
Nice. So yeah, that's the drum machine bit. Like, what else is the chat room talking about right now?
Well, before we get to what the chat room's going on about,
sorry.
We've been talking for a long time, and I have to, before we have to shut down here, I have to ask you about Nob Con. I think I would be
Oh,
doing
yeah.
I would be doing a poor job as a journalist. And as you know, I am now a professional journalist because I have a microphone.
Right.
So as a
We are
professional journalist,
we are all Edison Carter now. Okay. Max Headroom, look it up. It's a real thing. We're now 20 minutes into the future right now. Go ahead.
so I have to ask about Knobcon, and we didn't talk about this before anything. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I understand. I'm not here to prop. But is there going to be are you trying to have a Knobcon still? Is it still planned? What do you think?
The contract.
Okay.
I mean, I see no reason to change any plans. It's in September.
Okay.
Like there will not be any drastic decisions made about whether Knobcon happens or not this year until the summer. I mean, why would I do anything to change now? This is I don't. The situation we're in right now is not going to be the situation we're in September. Now, I don't know what that means right now. None of us know what that means.
Sure.
Well, we're going to have a better idea what that means in June or July than right now. And yeah, sadly, I was really disheartened to see that Movement rescheduled. Movement is a Detroit. It's the best techno festival in the world, and they rescheduled for the same weekend as Knobcon.
Oh,
and so I can't. I was a sponsor of Movement last year, and I exhibited there. They are at Paxahau are absolutely fantastic people. I love them to death. They've treated me better than any concert promoters ever have. They're fantastic. Okay. But I'm really bummed out that I don't get to do both Movement and Knobcon this year. But Knobcon is what I have to do. And
I think a lot of people later in the year, when all these things get rescheduled, we're going to have to fit an entire year's worth of stuff to do, in 3 or 4 or 5 months. It's going to be a lot of people are going to be making a lot of choices, because I think every weekend's going to be a 10 things are going on this weekend. What do I do kind of situation. So, but it's good to know that you're still planning on having it, and the optimism of everything's going to be cool and we'll be able to do it. And I appreciate that because it makes me feel a little bit better about things.
I was worried. I've been worried about I've been worried about this Chinese virus since January. Okay. I started hearing about it immediately after NAMM, the NAMM convention. And I was very concerned that I was exposed to it at the NAMM convention.
A couple of people that I was there with said the same thing. And when they came back, they had symptoms that now looking back are remarkably similar to what is going around.
And little known fact, Toledo has so much international business with Wuhan that there were actually direct flights between the Toledo airport and Wuhan. Now, Toledo is only a little bit larger than Peoria, okay? And it is also only an hour from Cleveland. Why you would fly out of Toledo instead of Cleveland to go to Wuhan is mystifying. It's a much smaller airport. So obviously they had a lot of business. That's why I think Ohio is being, there's a lot of, there's a lot of cases in Ohio. Anyway, I was concerned, and I continued to be concerned while I saw everybody else on social media around me talking about other things that weren't as important. And I was terrified that this was going to happen, but I was terrified that it was going to be much worse than it has been. Not to say that it's good. This is terrible, and it never should have happened. But I'm just telling everybody, like, it's when we heard about this back then, I was concerned that there would be I mean, we were seeing cell phone camera footage of people dropping dead in the street, and people being picked up and being put in these like coof containers, these like isolation boxes, and these people in these full hazmat suits like picking people up. And a friend of mine saw. I have friends that live in China, okay, and one of my friends saw doors being welded shut on apartment buildings. Okay, it was terrifying, but this country is doing really well for how it could have been. And I'm not going to cancel Knobcon because of this until it's time to cancel Knobcon because of this. Also, like, I signed a contract for this over a year ago.
Sure.
Do you know what I would be on the hook for if I were to cancel it?
No, and you certainly don't have to share that unless you desperately want to.
No, a lot. Let me just say a lot. I can share the number. It's called a lot. Okay. So, no, it would be a disaster for me. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry if anything I said was worrying or anything, but
Well, no, but but I am going to change the subject now because I suspect everybody watching this is not in. They can see that and listen to and hear all about that anywhere else on the internet. Literally anywhere else on the internet right now. So
I promised people a cozy stream, and for God's sake, we need to give it to them.
I told him it was going to be clear. Ugh. No, that's fine. But it was a question I had to ask because I'm sure people were wondering, and you gave an honest answer, and I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I think it's the answer people wanted to hear, frankly. So it's a positive thing. That's really all that was my last question, because you've sort of meandered and caught a lot of the questions that I had. Anyway, so it worked out well. Does anybody in the live chat have a question for Suit and Tie Guy, or a question for, less important that you have questions for me because I do this all the time, but anything anybody wants to ask Suit about STG, about Knobcon, about anything at all, the records behind him. I did have someone say, Suit Wayne says hello. Wayne,
Hi, Wayne,
who worked in your NAMM booth for 2 years.
Panamint Mance is his artist name.
It's Panamuse here in YouTube, yes.
Yeah. And he is a fantastic musician. He makes absolutely fantastic music. Go check it out. He's on Bandcamp. I don't remember his exact Bandcamp URL, but it's Panamint Mance, Mance. His music's fantastic. Go check it out.
If he just types that in the live stream, then people can put that before Bandcamp and find it. Do you plan on having Mark doing a Radiophonic 1 video for you?
I think he might have already finished it.
Okay.
That's something he might have. I don't know. Like, he said that he had been working on it. I gave him a system.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does. Oh, by the way, this is my vinyl of LTJ Bookham presents Earth.
Nice.
Which is, this is some really good, literally a good looking record. Right? So that's Mark absolutely, he is the undisputed king of YouTube synthesizer videos. Everyone needs to pay respect to the Don, and just keep that in mind.
He is
he
is certainly thorough.
I wouldn't have anybody else do a video like that. That doesn't mean I won't give the system to other people, but
I won't have anyone else do it. Nobody else.
But as far as like the the first thing it's like, I love Mark. I've been friends with Mark. Well, I hope I'm still friends with Mark after this. I've been friends with Mark since like 2011. And I watched his videos for years before that. I was just really impressed, and I wanted to be his friend because I liked his videos so much. And he worked in my NAMM booth as well this year.
Yes, and
with Wayne.
That was great because then I got a chance to talk with him, and you're right. Mark is a great guy. He knows so much, and he's so willing and so kind with his time to talk to people, and because he loves explaining this stuff. And I think he makes those videos, I think, because he physically has to do it. I think he just likes and needs to teach this stuff. And it's fantastic that our community has someone like Mark in it that is so good at what he does. We have, oh wait, I had someone here. You were talking about replacing the C Devils with a .slc, might that actually happen?
No, I don't know. I don't know what the question. I don't know what that means. I can't replace. Those are not fungible modules. Like the C Devils filter isn't ever leaving the product line.
Okay.
I need to make that clear. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what kind of crazy rumors are going around about Suit and Tie Guy Sound Labs, but nothing's getting discontinued right now except for, I've even figured out a way to get the Trigger mini store back into production, so that's going to happen at some point. But yeah.
Okay, has anyone done a VCO that's wave is modulated / carried onto itself repeatedly? I think that's asking if anyone's done an oscillator that self-modulates. And what I found in my experimentations with that is it just ends up stopping the oscillator. So I don't think that would work. All right. Why do Pittsburgh modules have label maker style graphics? Because you're looking at our modules that are 7 years old now and not the newer ones. We used the label maker because the Dymo label maker was what I reused for the original batch of prototype modules that I made. I had a blank panel and I had a Dymo label maker, and I was like, well, I'm going to use this. And so I did, and I thought this looks punk rock and I like this aesthetic, this DIY sort of look. And so I said, well, when I get these made, I had the panels made to look like my DIY panels. So they were metal photoed to look like I made them in my basement. So that was the reason for that.
You don't use Dymo in production.
No, we do not use Dymo in production.
No. Bob Moog used Dymo from 66 for the bottom row, the console panel, the CP.
Oh yes.
Okay, so before they actually settled on modules for that area, it was literally just a piece of black metal that had he made little dial like graphics, like little panels, like little squares of dial graphics, and then he would label the functions and everything with Dymo. I'm not even joking.
I believe you. I will.
The system here in Peoria has that.
Okay. Do you have any industrial records in your collection? I'm currently
define industrial.
I'm reading the chat room, so you can interpret that however you like.
This is a pile of records I'm considering selling, but I don't know. Sometimes you find records in your collection that are too valuable to keep. You know,
okay.
Like, for example, so this album. This is weird. This is crazy. This is called Baby Rocker, and it's a prog rock record made by disco musicians.
Of-
And it's fucking fantastic. But it's also worth $100. So,
okay.
you know, I mean, or like this. Why do I have a compilation of Colombian pop music from like the 70s?
Because music
I
is
don't
fun.
know. Well, it's cool, but it's also worth more than it's also worth a lot of money. So this, let's see. What about this? Is this industrial? I think this is industrial. This guy
I don't know. I don't recognize it.
Doc War Mirren. I don't know what this is. Yeah, this is. I pulled out some stuff from my record collection that I didn't listen to, that was saleable, because I was actually There's a thing that happened that I kind of needed to prepare for. I was prepping, and I was looking for any way that I could like get cash to go buy toilet paper.
Okay.
Not just toilet paper, but like
Yes.
lots of things, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because I didn't know what was going to happen. So, you know, I actually wound up having to send my girlfriend rubbing alcohol through the mail, which is illegal, by the way, because she just couldn't find it where she lived.
We can't find anything like that here either.
Anyway, this. Here, see this? Robert Fripp, Pleasure in Pieces. This is a bootleg of his Kitchen performance in New York City.
Interesting.
Yeah, I paid $20 for this at Amoeba Records in 1998, and he will hate me for owning it. But the last time I saw Robert Fripp play a gig, he started a half an hour early, and I showed up on time. So fuck that guy. Oh, well, and he's also, I mean, one of my biggest influences, but it's so disappointing. You know, I have trouble being on time for anything, and I was on time for a Robert Fripp gig, and that asshole started a half an hour early.
Well, at least you were on time and not late, because that you would have missed the whole thing.
I would have missed everything. So yeah, and that was at Blueberry Hill in St. Louis, by the way. It was an amazing venue to see him in. It was fantastic.
Okay, chat room. Did I get all the questions? Someone asked if Pittsburgh Modular will be at Nob Con this year, and I suspect in some context we will.
I hope so. I'm really sorry. There was a year you bought us a sponsorship, and
that's
somehow
it was all taken care of. It was just
I forgot to.
Yeah. No, that's
I mean,
fine.
I feel really bad about that, dude. That's the only fuck up that we've had like that. I'm really sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Doing this stuff is
glad
hard.
You still talk to me.
Because it's not that important. You guys made good on it instantly, and it's totally good. I wasn't even going to bring it up because it's not important.
No, I brought it up.
You did.
Someone said it's Pittsburgh going to be at Knobcon. I hope so. Everybody is going to be at Knobcon. Right now, I already have Novation and Korg and Buchla and Voltage and Company and all the brands they represent. And I believe Grove Audio as well. And I don't have the list on the top of my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we had immediately right out of when we opened registration in January, immediately had a fantastic amount of commitment. So I do not want to disappoint these people.
Well, it's easy to understand why, because it's such a fun show, and it's made. You can tell, I go to some of these shows, and I stopped doing most of these things a long time ago, because it's just so clearly just a shallow business event, and I don't have any really interest in that anymore. But Knobcon is one of those shows, just like it's from the heart, and it's made from passion, and it's not made from a, hey, I think we can make a couple $1,000s if we do this thing. It's made because, again, you have to do it because it's getting the tribe together and getting this crew together, and everyone gets to talk about synthesizers for a weekend. That's the goal. And it because it's coming from a good place, I think it really shows. And people do want to go then for that reason.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something. So making Knobcon had to happen because I wanted to attend Knobcon, but it didn't exist yet. And when you need to make if something doesn't exist in the world, well, it's not going to happen until you make it happen, right? Like Steve Jobs talks about, like poking one side of reality and seeing something come out the other end, and you have to do it, right? So Knobcon started out with an attendance of 90 people, and we had 1,000 last year. And it's a good, stable growth. I have so much amazing help with Knobcon, especially like just to let people know, like I am the curator of Knobcon. It was my idea, but it's my mother's event, and she negotiated. I came to her. She has, she worked in. She's a travel agent, and also owns a coffee shop. She's very talented. And when I was younger, she was very active in PTA at first local, then first school, then local, then regional, then state, then national. And she was involved in convention planning for state and national PTA for 20 years, almost. And so when I realized that we needed to have something like this, which I didn't know was going to be like this, I just wanted to have a cool synth meet, really. But I said, I'm going to call it a convention. It's going to be the world's only synthesizer convention. And I'm never changing that line no matter what, okay? So I don't care how many events take place at convention centers. Knobcon is the world's only synthesizer convention. So anyway, like I came to her and said, hey, Mom, I want to do a synthesizer convention. She's like, oh, that's great. Let's do it. And so she had so much experience, like negotiating with hotels and whatnot. Her experience in PTA convention planning and my experience in putting on punk rock shows in the 90s is exactly why Knobcon has never lost money, not even from the first year, ever.
That's awesome.
That doesn't mean that it's very profitable, but it's not important to be profitable as much as it is important to not lose money.
Yes.
Okay. And you can't do an event like this and then just lose, I don't know, 80 grand, I'm assuming, and then do it again. You'll never be able to do it again.
No.
Unless, somebody might figure out how to do it again, but I'm just telling you don't want to lose like that much money on an event like this. But you definitely are, this is not a profitable business. This kind of event, if you want to do it right and you want it to be honest and you want to have a positive environment for people to interact in where they feel comfortable and there's a general lack of pretension, you're not going to be able to like just fill your coffers. It doesn't work like that, you know? So that's what I have to say about that. I think that now, Andreas, he puts on a very good event called Superbooth.
Never heard of it.
I think you're doing a funny. Are you lolling me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, so yeah, Superbooth is a fantastic event, and Andreas does everything because he wants to and he's passionate about it. That guy is amazing. Okay,
yes, he is.
and it was very painful that they made such a nice offer to. They sent me a heartwarming email to try to get me to to go to Superbooth, and I knew that it came at a really bad time, and it was the kind of email that was so flattering that I couldn't return it, and then all this stuff happened. They actually they actually asked Hammond, they basically they offered me something to help me get to Germany that had something to do with me being in a Hammond orchestra. Because it was, and I was going to send Bubba, but then all this stuff happened, and then I couldn't even do that. But Superbooth is a fucking fantastic event, and Andreas approaches it the same way that I approach Knobcon, and that's why it's a good event. So,
yeah, Superbooth is it's okay. My booth, I'm a fan.
And sometimes Andreas probably gets a little irritated because I say things like Knobcon is the world's only synthesizer convention. But I hope that he understands that this is part of my persona. This is part of the entertainment value that I bring to this. You have to be entertained. And like I said at Knobcon, if it's not true, then at least it's funny, right? So
well, that's important.
Anybody trying to cancel me in the chat for saying that?
Yeah, they say down with Knobcon, up with Superbooth. No, everything's real positive. There's people saying
Cool.
gotta go.
Excellent.
People are saying they gotta go to Knobcon, and it's good. People love these things. They love the fact that you're willing to go out of your way to do this so we can go and have fun and talk about synthesizers all weekend. That's why when I introduce you, you are a legend in the industry because
it's so flattering.
You get to that because you're putting yourself out there in a very selfless way. You don't go and create something like Knobcon because you're a selfish guy. You're doing it because you want to share what you love with the community, and it allows us as the community to come and share then what we love as well. And that's what makes this stuff so fantastic, and that's why it's important that you do what you do, and that's why it's a pleasure talking with you tonight and sharing this little conversation with a bunch of people sitting at home with nothing else to do, because it's what you're doing is great, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure other people do as well. And according to the chat room now, they're a few minutes or a few seconds behind me here, Knobcon is the best, all caps. We do, all caps, exclamation point. All happy here. We're all just wired that way. Here does help build up the community. Create Audio says we could be playing Nintendo, so there's that. But yeah, no, there's a strong set of people appreciate what you're doing. Cool. Decaf wants an East Coast Knobcon. Chicago's East Coast enough. If I can drive there from Pittsburgh, it's kind of close enough.
Yeah. Never. Knobcon only happen in the Midwest. Never forget it. Okay.
There you go.
Part of why Knobcon can exist is because of where it is, and specifically where it is. You couldn't do Knobcon in a city, so it's happening in a suburb for a reason. I've had people complain there's one person who's super butthurt that Knobcon is he just doesn't like me, but he was complaining that that Schaumburg is just a cornfield, or something like he's upset because of something I said to him back when I didn't give a shit about what I said inside the internet. But and he's from Chicago. And he was complaining that Knobcon is in Schaumburg and like, why would I want to go to Schaumburg and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, the reason it's in Schaumburg is because it's 11 miles from O'Hare Airport. And out in Schaumburg, I can get a fantastic convention space, affordably, okay? And there are plenty of services around Knobcon. The largest, I mean, the largest shopping mall in the tri-state in the Chicagoland area, the largest shopping mall is literally across the street from it. There's, you're not too far away from anything, but it's all stuff that it's like normal suburban stuff, right? Yes. And then you have it in a place like this so that it's like an immersive event. Like when you come to Knobcon, you need to come to Knobcon. Don't fuck off and go to Chicago for some cool party at night because you're gonna you're gonna miss out. We're having the cool party. Knobcon is the cool party. Okay.
Create Audio would like you to have it in Branson, Missouri.
Branson, no, Branson's a nice place, but I mean, it's really congested. And is Create Audio like? Is he doing an LOL, or was that a serious question?
No, I suspect he is. He's
okay.
Just kidding.
Has he ever been to Branson?
I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't know. I will ask him next time I talk to him.
Yeah, I just like Branson's is too. I mean, it was like, why don't you have it in Gatlinburg? It would be the same reason. This is like too congested, and you don't want to. I mean, why it wouldn't be in Peoria because it's too far away from Chicago. The reason you want to be near Chicago is because it's a central location. You've got a fantastic international airport. Well, two of them in the area. It's like logistically it works out great. I couldn't do it, and I also can only handle this once a year. It takes too much out of me.
I don't blame you.
It literally does. It's an enormous energy drain.
Well, you live in the Chicagoland area. Why would you do it anywhere else?
I don't really live in the Chicagoland area, though. I live in between Chicago and St. Louis. Okay. I live, I mean, I guess for you, I mean, it would be like if somebody lived in Hershey, I guess they could be in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. But I mean, sure. You would realize that that's ridiculous, right? So, I mean, I don't live in the Chicagoland area. I'm 2.5 hours from the lakefront, though. Okay. And there are people that commute an hour to work every day. So I'm not that far. I mean, it's close enough that if I want to go to Chicago and hang out, no big deal. If I need to go to St. Louis for something, no big deal. I like being in this geographical area. And it's not just because of Big Yellow. Okay. That's just something that's kind of funny. So, by the way, I just want to let you know that my phone is plugged in to power, but the thingy says that I have 1% battery life. So I think that we're just going to keep talking until I disappear.
All right. So
I disappear without warning, and it'll be really funny.
I'm not sure exactly how long we've been talking, but the live stream has been going on now for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I'm flattered.
Now, about 15 or 20 of that was a looping video before you came on, but I suspect we're much nearer the end now than we are the beginning.
Oh, yeah. We are at the 2.5 hour. Well, we're at the 2 hour mark. I think we started talking at 7:30, and I'm really flattered that you have nice things to say to me, and you've been a great host, and I think that you're doing some great stuff with content right now. I feel like a slacker on the content game, but I'll get back to it. I've been really busy trying to I've been very busy with orders, actually, in this. That might be surprising. But yeah, I've been very busy with orders and such, so I haven't. I'm trying to get live streaming figured out on my end so that I can play music or do something. Like, I'd like to be able to sit down with a synth. Like, I just got a Korg Wave State.
Yeah.
It's an amazing synthesizer, and I think it would be kind of cool to just sit down with the camera on the Wave State and like play around with programming it and see if people, have questions or whatever. I don't know, stuff like that. It's kind of interesting to me, but we've got the recorded videos down to the point where we can do them in real time, and I can get them uploaded in like an hour because we use a hardware video recorder and hardware video switcher. My oscilloscope plugs right into the video switcher.
That's very nice.
Like, things are really, really high tech. Despite the fact that I look like I'm on some, sort of like old security camera or something like that. Like, basically, like, yeah, I want to. I enjoy making. I enjoy doing stuff like this, even if it has, say, nothing to do with STG SoundLabs. I've got a video that's been really successful in the past couple of years, where I'm using the Novation circuit as a MIDI looper. Okay.
Oh, nice.
I'm not, and it's like got 20,000 views or something like that. And, like, it was just like, hey, I figured out how to do a cool thing with the Novation circuit, and I made a video about it, and there wasn't STG SoundLabs anything in that video. I something Watson said is that I sometimes get more enthusiastic. One of my problems is that I get more enthusiastic about other people's products than my own. And, that might be true. I mean, that's why I like JHS Pedals YouTube channel. We were talking about that before we went live. I think that JHS Pedals does an amazing job with content. So.
Oh, sure, because I think it's because it's genuine, and people can tell the difference. People watch him, and I watch him too, because you watch it because you want to live through his excitement for these things.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun. That's what doing this stuff is fun, because I get to talk to people. I know you're genuinely excited about this stuff. Everybody I've talked to has been genuinely excited about what we're talking about. And that's what makes it interesting to me. And honestly, I started doing these live streams and I started doing this video stuff, honestly, as a way to entertain myself. So the fact that it entertains other people is great, but that's really not the point. This is just me sort of relaxing a little bit and talking to people that I love to talk to. And it's a shame that I only get to talk to these people maybe once or twice a year at shows. So now I get to sprinkle people in every week or so. I can talk to someone different, and it's a lot of fun for me. So it's a fun thing to do. And I get to hear different perspectives on different, what's going on in the synthesizer world and what people are interested in, what people are talking about, because it's, that's the stuff I'm thinking about too. I don't know. It's nerdy, but it's that's what we do. I don't know.
It's good. This is, but I think it might be better if I said goodbye than just disappear.
All right. If you think
really
so.
Funny. It would be really funny to disappear, but
yes.
Are there any more questions from the chat room?
There hasn't been any. We've gone on a tangent, and there hasn't been any more questions, but do you have anything you want to plug or anything you want to tell us about?
Oh yeah. I'll tell you that, like, Boat Rocker, my power supply for Moog Mother 32 and Behringer cases. Right now I'm just going to be selling it as is mainly like the kind of person that's going to want to buy the power supply off the bat are people that have empty Mother 32 cases that they want to figure out something to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I figure out how to support, I'm going to make end cap. I just basically, like, I have to do a little bit more design work to support the Behringer case and the empty case that Moog sells.
Okay.
Um, but so for right now, it's like if you have an empty DFAM case or an empty Mother 32 case. Um, um, by the way, I love Moog. Really good people at work over there. Um,
Oh yeah.
I have nothing but good things to say about I spent 5 weeks of my life in Asheville working on the Moog One, and it was I was a consultant and sound designer on it, and it was an amazing experience. I loved it. I loved every second of it, and I hope it happens again. But anyway, um, the power supply uh, was supposed to be delivered today. I might already be at my house, so I'll be. I'm not gonna. The way that I'm gonna roll it out, like definitely like contact me if you want to buy one. I'm gonna send out a newsletter and maybe make a couple of social media posts, but I'm not gonna actually put it on my website from the front page.
Okay.
I'm worried about. I don't know. Maybe I should.
This is a strange business plan you have here for selling things, but that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I don't want to like. I have like the first shipment is 50 units,
Okay.
and I think that I can actually sell 50. I don't know. I don't know how long it'll take. Basically, like if you want a boat rocker power supply, you'll be able to get one real soon. I'll probably put it on Reverb actually instead of my website. This is something I'm going to be selling on my own for a while.
Okay.
Um,
And they're asking in the chat room, that's the boat rocker, which is a power supply for use in Moog Mother 32 cases.
Yes, yeah, and
Okay.
DFAM cases.
And DFAM
basically
cases.
Like, yeah, and it's amazing. It's a very high quality switching power supply that does not use any off the shelf DC to DC converters. It's a discrete design, and there's two isolated regulation groups. Those groups have been tested north of 500 milliamps per rail. The primary limitation is actually like the primary current limitation is actually the brick that powers it, not the actual circuit itself. So like I just wanted a beefy power supply.
Okay.
Because people ask me like, what are you like? What's the power ratings on your modules? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. like I guess people have those as like specs, but it's like I just plug stuff into a system until it doesn't work, or it doesn't work.
We test all our stuff with a meter. It's
right. I mean, that's cool. I'm not saying you shouldn't test stuff. I'm just saying that I just always make sure that I've got enough power that I don't have to worry about the current of draw of my modules.
Okay.
I've never overloaded my Moog system, my Moog format system as a linear, a big beefy like linear power supply, and I have 60 Moog units worth of stuff in that thing, and I've never had a problem. And I wanted to have a power supply that was beefy enough so that nobody bugs me about like, well, what's your current draw on your modules? When do you have it figured out? I'm like, I don't know, because I haven't bought that test equipment yet. I'm sorry. Like, so, which by the way, I'm sure that people be like, just criticize me for saying it like that, but whatever, I don't care. I just wanted I wanted the nicest power supply I could possibly have in a 60 HP case. And it wound up being strong enough. I was running two 84 HP racks off of the Rev 2 prototype that's in here.
Okay.
I ran two 84 HP racks off of that board, daisy chaining power, because my modules can daisy chain because they've got two power connectors on them, one for Eurorack and one for synthesizers.com. And I ran, I ran those two I ran 168 HP of my modules off of that board for 2 months straight. No problem. There was no overheating, no noise, no nothing. That was off of a 5 amp external brick.
Okay.
I'm going to ship it with a 4 amp external brick. I've been advised by the engineer that I'm going to guarantee 500 milliamps per rail per group.
All right.
That's the guarantee, which for 60 HP is, I mean, you're not going to be able to stress this power supply. It's not going to happen in 60 HP. You know, like it just won't. It can power the vector, the 512 vector runs off of it just a-okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beefiest. That's definitely the thirstiest module that I have. That, or Bubba has a structure, and the structure runs off of it fine too.
Cool.
I think. So I think we tested structure on it, but yeah. So that power supply is going to be available like real soon now, and by real soon now I mean this week.
Nice.
I have to, like, as long as DHL shows up with the package, and as long as they actually work when I pull them out of the box, I can start selling them. And I really need to sell them because, whoa, one of my lights just went out.
I saw that. Yes.
They're running off of Canon camera batteries.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the red orange light behind me is running off of a Sony battery.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I find this stuff. I enjoy this stuff. But anyway, yeah, that's the status of the power supply. I'm hoping to be able to ship them next week. You know, it's just like the DHL truck didn't show up at the house by the time I left to come. That's why I was late getting here. Is I was hoping that the DHL driver would show up, because I wanted to hold it in my hand like this and be like, "See here, look what I got! Look what I got, guys! Oh my God, look at this!" And I didn't get to do that.
Well, I know you mentioned that in the email chain we had 2 weeks ago that it was supposed to be there. So I know what you're feeling. I feel it.
Yeah,
but I'm glad that they are here though, and hopefully you'll be able to start selling this week, because that's important. That's important.
Yeah, and then anybody waiting on a VCO, like, I'm really sorry that you've been waiting, but it's gonna happen. The next thing to ship over here is the manufacturing prototypes, and as long as they check out, then I can like order the full run. I've already got the front panels here for both Moog and Eurorack format, and anybody like up. I've, for something that I sold that early, I've been selling that thing for over a year now, like a year and 2 months, and no one has really, like, I've got the best customers in the world, man. Like, there's nobody's like, they know that they're going to, and also they all got a discount price, the investor level pricing, I call it.
Oh, nice.
Because they were going to, because I think that in Moog format, I was charging like $245, which is a savings off retail of $50. And in Eurorack, it was like $200. This is going to be an expensive VCO in Eurorack. I'm sorry. I think it's going to be like $265 or so.
What?
But it's so fantastic. Okay. What? Is that okay?
That's totally fine.
But and anybody that bought, and by the way, I got to remind everybody, if you did buy the VCO module at the discount pricing, then you also get to have 50% off a single module from STG Sound Labs in the future. So everybody got a 50% off coupon for one module in addition to their discount, and that's what they get for waiting. Basically, is they get these concessions. I've never sold anything that I didn't finish. Even the Switch module, it took 3 years to finish. And, everybody that bought a Switch, actually, they waited so long, I gave them a free module.
That's above and beyond. But
I try to take care of people.
When you run this, you're clearly running your business from your heart. So that's obvious.
Thank you. Well, I've had 2 lights go out now.
All right. Well, I think that's a sign. If there's nothing else, it's a sign. Sue, thank you for joining me today. It's been so much fun talking to you. I can't thank you enough. It's been great. You got to come on again. We got to do this again. It was a ton of fun.
Thank you, Richard.
So go charge your phone, and everybody that wants a power supply, go to his website, send him an email. Minimal advertising, and I will talk to you again, hopefully sooner than later, because it's been so much fun. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody in the chat room as well. I appreciate you guys all hanging out, and I'm going to do this again next week, Tuesday. I will be doing this with Bob from Black Corporation, which should be really interesting because Bob is another man of wonderful stories. So that'll be a ton of fun. Make sure you check that out. I can't remember the time because I'm not good at this, but it'll be Tuesday at some point in time, and I'll put up some, social. You'll know what it is. But thank you everybody in the chat room for hanging out. Again, Suit, thank you very much, and I'll talk to everybody later. Talk to you later. Oh, let me find. There it is. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.